मेरी मदर एक चीज कहती है कि ना तुम आई वॉज गिवन अ लॉट ऑफ फ्रीडम बाय माय पेरेंट्स. शी सेड तुम क्लास 6 में अपने रूम के अंदर गए और क्लास 8 में तुम बाहर आए और तुमने अंदर क्या किया ना, हमें बहुत फिक्र था कि क्या कर रहा है. ऐसे यार हमने कोई ड्रग्स नहीं किया, हमने कोई सुट्टा नहीं पिया, हम बैठ के कुमार सानू के गाने सुन रहे थे, हम उदित नारायण के गाने सुन रहे थे.
Hi Jamie, how are you? Welcome to Chalchitra Talks.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you, Vani. I am very well. Good to be back. It wasn't that long ago when I was here on one of your superb quiz nights, जहाँ पे मैंने इतना अच्छा प्रदर्शन नहीं दिया, but I think today will be far more, at least for me, more relaxing.
Yeah, it will be very relaxing. तो काफी laid back conversation हो गई है. And before we get into the recommendations, I quickly want to introduce you, Jamie. And like for our viewers who are watching, Jamie is a YouTuber, actor, writer, a sports enthusiast. Am I missing out on something? Because I know you do a lot of things. So
I began as a sports journalist, and 16 years later, I'm still doing that, but क्या बोलूं मैं, I branched into all the other things which you just mentioned.
Nice. And we are going to talk about all those things in a bit. And our channel is mostly something which is centric to like movies, books, music, and recommendations. But like one fun like trivia about me, I'm a big Rajasthan Royals fan. So I have to ask you, which is your favorite IPL team?
Yeah, man, I have to be like full disclosure. I do not support any IPL team. इसका वजह बहुत ही simple है. We were told, or at least I was told, when I started out my sports journalism career, कि अगर आपको एक अच्छा journalist बनना है, अच्छा writer है, do try to remove the fan from inside you. कहना आसान है. It's very, very tough. If I have to say I have any loyalties, it will be towards the Indian cricket team for obvious reasons. But
Nice.
When it comes to the IPL, मैं सच कहूँ, I do not support any team. There have been teams which I've enjoyed following as a journalist, and of course, I think IPL की बात करें तो Vaibhav, the certain players which are associated with the team, you end up sort of perhaps following them a little closely. But ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि I support any team. I grew up in Bombay. I still call it Bombay instead of Mumbai. लोग कहते हैं यार वो मुंबई हो गया. मानता हूँ मैं, but for me, someone growing up in the 80s, I have loyalties towards Bombay. Equally, I have loyalties towards Mussoorie in the hills, जहाँ पे कोई IPL team तो है नहीं, और पिछले 10 साल से I've been here in Delhi. So I think ये भी also factor है कि आप कहाँ के हो, आप कहाँ पे shift हो गए हो. That's also a factor. I just keep it simple. किसी को support मत करो.
किसी को सपोर्ट मत करो या सबको इक्वली सपोर्ट करो.
ये भी सही है. Yeah.
हाँ, like how they say a designer cannot have a favorite color, right? Like क्योंकि it eventually comes in the way of like the thought process. It is absolutely fair, but I want to talk about like sports first. आपको क्रिकेट के अलावा like आपके like again like I don't want to use the word favorite sports, but which are the sports that you follow most keenly?
I would say hockey. I like hockey. A lot of people ask me कि आप football पे videos क्यों नहीं बनाते हो? And my answer is very simple. I'm not a really big football fan. I never have been. Obviously, when I was doing all sports as compared to just cricket, I had to keep track of football. But somehow, and people find it very odd, because it's like the biggest sport in the world, or pretty much every second person is a football fan. तो फुटबॉल का मैं इतना बड़ा फैन नहीं हूँ. I like basketball. I think because my roots, if I can say, my roots lean back to North America. लोग समझते हैं कि हम लोग ब्रिटिश हैं, हम नहीं है. I'm a fourth generation American lineage person born and raised in India. हूँ तो हिंदुस्तानी, but I think growing up we had sports like baseball and basketball all around us. So I like watching basketball. I really like watching badminton, and मुझे बहुत personally बहुत पसंद आया कि साइना नेहवाल के बाद जो rise आया है. And of course we've had some great badminton players, Prakash Padukone, Pulela Gopichand. But being in the sports line, seeing what साइना नेहवाल ने किया था 2008 के Beijing Games में, फिर PV Sindhu 2016 silver medal. It's been fascinating to watch the rise of our Indian shuttlers. So yeah, I think hockey, badminton, baseball and basketball are the 4 sports I would follow. But compared to cricket, ये बहुत पीछे है मेरे लिए ये sports.
Cricket is the one which comes on top, right? So, cricket mein, who are the commentators that you enjoy the most listening to?
Michael Holding is someone who I have a lot of high regard for. Of course, Harsha Bhogle, who I have the fortune of knowing. He was also a very good friend of my father's. And I think Harsha Bhogle ne jo maqam banaya apne liye, despite never playing the game at, they say, the highest level, I think it's fantastic. Harsha's voice has remained neutral for so many years. And I think वही एक बहुत बड़ी बात है, not to be swayed by opinions or swayed by teams. Of course, he passionately supports Indian cricket, but आप देखेंगे, if you ever heard Harsha Bhogle on any stint, he has a real observation for the game. So someone like him, David Lloyd, जो पूर्व England के player हैं, I think he's wacky, but behind that wackiness, he also has a great knowledge of the game, of the more, पता नहीं है, मुझे शायद recent शब्द का उपयोग नहीं करना चाहिए, but of the people who got into it more recently. I think Akash Chopra is someone who has a real, एक तो he has a pulse of what the common man wants to hear, और हिंदी पे जो उनकी पकड़ है आकाश की, I think it's fantastic, and he brings a certain flavor into the game. Ajay Jadeja at times offers a certain nuance to the game. Tony Cozier, who passed away a few years ago, I was a big fan of his commentary. तो हाँ, I think 4-5 मेरे again favorites यही होंगे.
Among the few names you said, like जैसे one of the most renowned is Harsha Bhogle. Like I want to ask a particular question about him because I also enjoy his commentary a lot. उनकी ऐसी कौन सी एक चीज है, like जैसे a normal person who is, जिसको ज्यादा सेंस नहीं है about like the intricacies of it, but अगर कोई आप ऐसी चीज बताना चाहें कि what you guys are not realizing is that there is this small thing it does which is very difficult to pull off, क्योंकि हर एक आर्टिस्ट की एक ऐसी चीज होती है. So is there anything which makes Harsha Bhogle?
एक तो he's a fan of the game, he's a student of the game, he loves the game, but I think he doesn't get overawed being in the press box with big names, चाहे Sunil Gavaskar हो या Viv Richards हो. I think that is something he's probably had to work hard on. But to specifically pinpoint one thing, since you've asked, probably it's he just has a certain you have to be a good storyteller. You have to be able to pick up something which the viewer might already be seeing, also might not be seeing. So what is your vantage point? And he has a very lyrical way of speaking. He'll pick up something, और एक तो जब वो मुस्कुराते हैं, I think that just makes people become his fan. It's very easy on the eye. ज़्यादा कोशिश नहीं करते हैं. Again, I mean, maybe he does, but he comes across as someone who can make it seem very simple. Because एक true passion, एक true love for the game है, to keep that going for hours. अगर आप टेस्ट क्रिकेट की बात करें, 5 दिन, 2 घंटे का सेशन, जिनमें से अगर उन्होंने 1 घंटा पे किया, तो still that's 3 hours a day. To keep on doing it while just looking happy, looking involved, I think he just keeps it very simple.
आपने अभी ओलंपिक्स में देखा, like how did you like the whole नीरज चोपड़ा वाला, like just हम recommendation से थोड़ा दूर है अभी, but I want to know like how did you feel about that?
एक तो what that boy has achieved. I'm saying boy because he's literally 23 years old. Okay,
yeah,
he can come. And keep in mind, we lost a year in COVID. Now the next Olympics are in 3 years, right? So for an elite athlete, एक साल जो हट गया ना, बहुत important है. And I think he can go back and probably do the same thing in 3 years' time. But again, to get back to your question, just to watch him, आपने देखा होगा आप दोनों ने, when he let that second throw go, the moment the javelin had left his arm, उस बंदे को मालूम था कि भाई साहब मैं तो गोल्ड जीत गया. मतलब literally ना रोंगटे खड़े हो गए. I was watching it. I was doing live cricket commentary and I just gotten off and I watched probably 3-3.5 minutes of that whole event and it was just fascinating. एक तो वो है कि भाई साहब he's just become the second Indian to win an individual gold medal after Abhinav Binda. If that's not going to give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. एक होता है जोश में, like you hit the winning runs in a World Cup final or some big tournament final, या आप आखिरी बैट्समैन को आपने बोल्ड किया, एक जोश तो होता है. But then when you have 3 minutes to come down from that high, वो भी एक और high है. When he had his t-shirt back on, he had the flag on his shoulders, and then he was jogging along the stadium boundary line and he was waving to Indian fans या supporters, perhaps his own party, जो भी वहाँ पे हिंदुस्तानी लोग थे, एक वो देख के ना ये जो आंख में आंसू आ गया ना, and वो मेरे साथ तो हो गया था.
मेडल वाले जितने भी मैचेस थे I watched and I was watching it and I was messaging Vani कि hey you have to watch it. So what happened was I was watching it with Hindi commentary and Vani was watching it with English commentary and Vani kept sending me Dude, are the English commentaries always this brutal? Like, Vani, can you tell us a little about that? Ki what was
Please,
so
please,
different
yes.
about it?
They were really nice. They were talking about, oh, I think he's run out of juice. Oh, look at that man, here he goes. And then the javelin won't fall very often. He's like, oh, alas, he's run out of juice. It was very brutal.
I can probably understand कि a lot of the people जो करते हैं commentary, especially the Olympics, जहाँ पे इतने सारे देश हैं, they're really not aware of what's happening. And frankly, I've even seen this with some of our Indian commentators or experts जो आते हैं. I'm not going to take names, and I understand that it's a very high pressure situation. और होता है, मतलब अक्सर लोग, you know, they laugh at our people for butchering the names of foreign things. पर एक होता है नाम को गलत करना और एक होता है what you're saying, Vani, to be brutal and say, you know, things when the guy goes on to win. So I can understand to a certain extent where it comes from, but really fascinating to see that you both were watching it with two different languages on.
यहाँ पे एक ये सवाल भी आता है कि कमेंट्री में क्रिटिसिज्म वाली साइड भी आती है एंड इट्स काइंड ऑफ योर जॉब लाइक कि हे मतलब यू हैव टू लाइक आल्सो क्रिटिसाइज दिस थिंग बट आफ्टर अ पॉइंट ऐसा हो जाता है कि हे अगर सचिन बैटिंग कर रहे हैं तो आप सचिन के बारे में यू कांट से दैट अगर सीएसके का मैच है धोनी का आप एक टाइम के बाद नहीं बोल सकते सो हाउ डू यू बैलेंस दैट विदाउट गेटिंग टू बिटर एंड लाइक बीइंग एट द टॉप and just calling out at places where you have to call out?
Very good question, and इसका answer भी काफी मुश्किल है देना. I have only gotten into the actual live commentary, you know, very recently. मैं तो जब से मैं इस लाइन में आया हूँ मैं इस चीज से भागता था because I felt like यार live is just too much pressure and stuff, you know. जो fan वाली बात मैंने कहा था वो आ गया बाहर. And sometimes like I would say things like यार इसने क्या कर दिया है, and quickly some mail would come from someone saying you have to remember your place, you're supposed to be neutral. आप and even things like आप वो गेम नहीं खेल चुके. पर ऐसा यार पर आपने देखा 4 रन चाहिए था, फील्ड पीछे है, उस बंदे ने क्यों डाला? It comes out. But you know, I'll be very honest, Akash Chopra on his YouTube channel, starting this India-England series, he said something fantastic. We have a watch along जहाँ पे Akash Chopra, Irfan Pathan, Parthiv Patel, Sanjay Bangar, Deep Das Gupta, RP Singh, we were all there. So उसमें I'm like the anchor. और कल, I'm sure you know, the whole 5th day of the first test at Trent Bridge got washed out.
Yeah.
तो जब बारिश होता है आपको पता है कि यार ब्रॉडकास्टर जो बोले आज मैच नहीं होने वाला. So as an anchor, you have to try and drive the talk so that it doesn't veer into things which are banal and all. And yeah, Kal, Vani and Vaibhav, we had a fascinating, almost an hour and a half conversation about this same thing. Has Akash Chopra ever regretted saying something about a player? एक तो वो खुद इंडिया के लिए खेल चुके हैं. Has he regretted something he's written, something he said on air? और उन सब ने कहा था कि भाई बहुत आसान है वो करना. But we as former players, ये हमारा एक duty बनता है. We want to be critical of someone who's played a bad shot at a bad time, of someone who's bowling the wrong line, of someone who's done something which has indirectly or directly led to India being in a bad situation. लेकिन उसके साथ, knowing the pressure and the grind of getting to where said player is, we have to try and be in their shoes. कि इस समय में उस बंदे ने ऐसा शॉट क्यों खेला होगा? As a neutral observer, it was fascinating to watch these players be very honest. And it is very tough. Like a Sanjay Manjrekar who had a fairly good India career and then now for 20 odd years has been a commentator. When he calls Ravindra Jadeja a bits and pieces cricketer, it's very easy for fans and social media to get up in arms and say, yeah, तूने क्या किया? मानता हूँ. But he's also doing his job. He, in that point, was probably calling it what he felt. Was it disrespectful? You can say yes, but at that point, someone's getting paid to share his views. Is he not supposed to do that? So I think this is a question जिसका जवाब कोई ठीक से नहीं दे पाएगा और जब तक लोग कमेंट्री कर रहे हैं, जब तक पूर्व खिलाड़ी इस लाइन में आ रहे हैं, तो ये चलता रहेगा. But about myself, yes, there have been times when in my written columns I've used words which I probably regret. I've also been called up by players कि यार तूने वो शब्द क्यों use किया? And if they respect me and they're willing to hear me out, then great. If they're not, well, then, you know, that's just too bad. Because at that time, I firmly believe that the word that I was using was the apt word to use. I hope I've made sense with my answer.
No, you have. यहाँ से मैं एक सेगवे लेना चाहता हूँ like in the YouTube world, right? Like when you have your own platform and like when you have your own audience, वहाँ पे हमें शायद थोड़ी सी एक लेवल ज़्यादा लिबर्टी मिल जाती है to say things what we would want to say. And I just want to know your relation with YouTube. Like किस priority पे do you keep YouTube on your level? Like for us, like our YouTube is very important. We do a lot of other things also, but like the main funnel is YouTube, right? So for you, how has your relationship with YouTube been?
I fell into YouTube in a stage of my career where I had stepped back from full-time media work. बहुत मजा आया, अच्छा experience हुआ, अच्छे पैसे कमाए. I was satisfied from individual level, but creatively I was getting stagnated. It might sound like a cliche, लेकिन ये होता है ना कि आप एक दिन जाते हो यार, अब वो ड्राइव नहीं है ऑफिस जाने का जो शायद पहले था. I think if you worked in the corporate sector, the higher you go, in terms of your designation, you get saddled with a lot of pressures. Like I can speak openly about, like in the digital media, the hits, the clicks. There's a lot of external factors which go into deciding your daily rundown, your daily work. मैंने कहा यार जिस कारण से तुम इस लाइन पे आए थे, अगर वो मजा नहीं आ रहा, what's the point going? Also, at that point, I had already shot for Amazon Prime's Afsos. I knew that its release was imminent, and I wanted to see कि यार ये जो acting का कीड़ा जो था पहले से, but जो तुम कभी इसको पूरी तरह से, how do I say, you didn't chase it. Let's see where that goes. So it was a combination of factors. I think I would not have embraced YouTube the way I do now had I been stuck in that corporate job, simply because the paperwork did not allow me to operate a YouTube channel of any sort. एक और आप जानते होंगे, Times of India, Navbharat Times की एक YouTube channel है, Fake It India, which is a very unique, first of its kind satire show where we satire the Indian news landscape, खासकर the Indian TV setup. तो उसमें जो मेरे दो किरदार थे, खासकर टिंकू जिया का, this is an extremely popular character. I had left the Times group in mid 2018 to join Z as their digital sports editor. Obviously, you can understand when you leave a company, you are not allowed to have any ties in any form with that company. So I had to leave the company. And for the 18 months that I was away from there, a lot of comments were like, यार वो टिंकू जिया कहाँ गया, टिंकू जिया कहाँ, हम ये शो नहीं देखेंगे. So I was getting directed from friends and Neeraj, whose brainchild this show is, कि सर इतने कमेंट्स आए, आप कुछ कर लो, आपके बिना तो वो फैंस को मजा नहीं आ रहा है. So one day sitting here in, this would have been I think August 2018, I said यार तूने एक YouTube चैनल खोला था बहुत पहले अपने लिंक्स और अपने वीडियोस डालने का. It was dormant. So I sat down, I didn't even brush my hair, ऐसे ही बैठ गया मैं नींद से उठ के, and I just flipped the camera and I did about an 8-minute video saying कि दोस्तों, एक तो आपने जितना प्यार टिंकू जिया और फिगर इंडिया को दिया, बहुत बहुत thank you. But just because I've left, don't stop watching the show. Support Neeraj, support the team. And and I explained कि मैं उस चैनल पे क्यों नहीं आ रहा हूँ. वो वीडियो भाई साहब मैंने अपलोड किया और मैं भूल गया. 15 months later, I happened to open that video. उसने कुछ पता नहीं 12-15 हजार views थे and like 300 comments or something like that. कि नहीं नहीं आपको करना चाहिए, आप कहाँ हो. ऐसा यार there seems to be some sort of connection here. People are genuinely interested कि यार ये गोरा बंदा हिंदी कैसे बोल रहा है. Nobody, very few knew the backstory. So I said ठीक है. As it turned out, September 2019 में I left, like I said, I left full-time job and I called Neeraj. मैंने कहा नीरज, खुशखबरी आपके लिए, अब मैं फ्रीलांसर हूँ, अब मैं आपका शो कर सकता हूँ. He's like, मैं तुम्हें कल लगा दूंगा वापस जॉब पे. So in the 2-week gap between leaving Z and getting back to Fake It India, again I went back to YouTube. We have a house in Missouri. आपने शायद कुछ देखेंगे videos. And I did a 2-minute video saying, दोस्तों, I have an update for you. I am back in the freelance market. And for all of you who wanted me back as Tinku Jia, ये है. वो लगा दिया. उस पे views गए. This is not about getting any fame or any adulation or any view. I said, there's a genuine connection here. How much can you answer on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? YouTube seems to be the best platform. You don't need to make yourself up. Just camera flip karo or bolo. So that's how it led. And then I decided from a very conscientious level कि मैं जो video करूँगा, मेरी कोशिश रहेगी just do videos on what the viewers are asking you. Don't get over smart. Don't get cocky. Don't try and give any ज्ञान. If somebody wants to know आपके father India कैसे आए, लो. आप इस लाइन में कैसे आए?
Funny, make notes.
So I'm saying,
mental notes.
this is how it started. Now, while I take it far more serious than I did on November 2019 because of natural growth, it's not like I wake up being like, मुझे आज ये करना है. There have been days when I've recorded 3 videos in a day. क्योंकि उस वक्त idea आया. I'm a big fan of Hindi films from the 90s. So if I'm thinking, यार वो अच्छा वो जो सरफरोश में आसमां में वो कौन था, राइट? So then I said, I'm going to pick up 5, 6 small characters who probably had 2 lines in a Hindi film, but who had a lasting impact. So that's what I'm actually working on right now. I may do that video, or I may script it and be like, yeah, एक second. In the 90s, there were a lot of these songs when people used to play the harmonium under rain, like Barsat ke Mausam. So I might get think that might lead me to something about sports. So it's very impulsive in the way I do it. So again, I don't have any organic plan for YouTube. वो हो गया so हो गया. Like I said, I try and do things based on what people ask me to do. But if that video idea leads me down some rabbit hole जहाँ पर मैं 90s की वीडियो पे 90s के बारे में 6 वीडियो बनाऊंगा, तो well and done. I hope in a घुमा फिरा के वे मैंने बोल दिया.
नहीं नहीं, यहाँ पे बहुत सारी चीजें कमेंट्स में लोग बोलते हैं ये बनाओ, हमने शायद इतने बनाई नहीं है, बट हमें शायद ये ज्यादा करना चाहिए। अगर वो बोल रही है बनाओ तो बना देते हैं ना।
What works for me won't work for my wife Meha. What works for her won't work for you. So
Yeah.
it just depends. You एक तो अपना जो if you have a plan, fantastic. I think
Yeah.
आप लोग जो कर रहे हो, it's very structured. But being structured, you're getting a lot of different things like the quiz or the recommendations or getting actors and writers. वो करते रहो. उसके बीच, if you can make videos based on some recommendations, I think you will win. You will win very loyal fans. If they know कि यार उस बंदे ने एक तो मेरे को like किया, वो बड़ी बात है। उसने लाइक के बाद उसने रिप्लाई किया, और बड़ी बात उसने लाइक और रिप्लाई करने के बाद मेरा आइडिया का वीडियो बनाया था। आई थिंक दैट satisfaction would probably be through the roof for many of your viewers too. But again, my thing would be like बहुत लोग पूछते हैं सर आपका क्या है, आपका प्लान? यार मेरा कोई प्लान नहीं, आई एम जस्ट वेरी लाइक देखते हैं क्या होगा।
यहाँ पे मैं 2 चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा, और एक चलचित्र के बारे में छोटा सा फ्लेक्स है, क्योंकि हमें लगता है हमारा एक छोटा सा एक लॉयल फैन बेस है। लाइक वी हैव पेट्रन मॉडल ऑल्सो, लाइक हमारे पेट्रन्स हमें सपोर्ट करते हैं। अभी करंटली वी हैव 110 पेट्रन्स, एंड अभी देयर आर 2 मीटअप्स ऑफ चलचित्र पेट्रन्स विच हैपेंड। एक अभी न्यूयॉर्क में हुआ था और एक सैनजोस में हुआ था, वेयर these people met together and they sent us photos, and we are like, we talked about movies, books, and I'm like, this is so cool. I've never been to US
awesome.
myself.
That's awesome. See, that I'm saying, if you keep doing good things, if you keep doing unique things, ना बाकी को किसी चीज के बारे में मत सोचो, अच्छा ही होगा।
यहाँ पे एक जो मैं आपसे चीज जानना चाहता हूँ, I don't know if people ask you this, but like I am very interested in this thing. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Not like ऐसे per se कि I am a businessman or an entrepreneur per se, but like एक तो creator side है कि हम क्या वीडियो बना रहे हैं। एक है कि यार मैंने ये बनाया, ओके इस पे रिस्पॉन्स अच्छा नहीं आया, ये मैंने यूट्यूब स्टूडियो खोल के देखा है, मेरे लास्ट 28 दिन की परफॉर्मेंस ये थी, लास्ट 90 दिन की ये थी, कहाँ ग्राफ नीचे जा रहा है। मेरे को ऐसा लगता है अगर आप ग्राफ पे ध्यान दे रहे हो तो एक एंटरप्रेन्योरियल साइड होती है, बिकॉज वी डू दैट अ लॉट। आई थिंक the app that I open the most on my phone is not Instagram or Twitter, it's YouTube Studio.
बिल्कुल नहीं, आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा। Yes, am I building a brand? That's what it is. बहुत सारे मौके मुझे आए हैं, and that of course will play on your mind कि यार अच्छा मैं ये करूं वो करूं, but just being the way I am, मुझे बिजनेस का भी नहीं पता। I don't know how to sell myself. No, शायद वो आता तो मैं कहीं और बैठता, कोई और BHK फ्लैट होता, कोई और गाड़ी होता। But again, if that's what an entrepreneur is, then मैं बिल्कुल वो नहीं हूँ। But बिल्कुल, like you said, you have to look at your growth. I actually opened up a cricket channel because the demand for cricket was far less in terms of comments and views than my other things. But being someone who's done cricket for so many years, एक fan base आके sir, we want to hear about you talking about cricket. But then so many of them said, boss, cricket के बारे में मत करो. So just because the numbers are outweighed as per YouTube analytics, I then opened up a separate cricket channel जहाँ पे we just talk. अब उसकी जो अगर मैं growth देखूँ तो बहुत कम है. But because I'm not doing that for growth, I'm doing that channel for the very few loyal subscribers and viewers who want to hear me talk about cricket. What is a big eye-opener was people wanted to hear me talk about times when I did a prank on someone speaking Hindi, or when I was ripped off at Janpat, things like this. So keeping that in mind, बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा, at some point the mind is leaning towards being an entrepreneur. Yes.
Because आपके भी जब मैंने most viewed videos देखे, उनके थंबनेल बिल्कुल एप्ट है, मतलब कि मैं क्लिक करूंगा ही करूंगा।
Again, I'll be very open. मैं इतना YouTube पे नहीं था जितना मैं अब हुआ. I used to watch my old Bollywood songs 90s से. I used to watch some American talk shows, and of course I used to watch all the cricket archives going back. But barring these 3 things, मैंने कभी ज़्यादा consume नहीं किया इसको ना. तो I never noticed कि thumbnail चीज क्या है. Despite being firmly embedded in digital media, मैंने कभी ध्यान नहीं किया. फिर अराउंड द फिफ्थ वीडियो माय फ्रेंड सेड यार आप ना आपने वो कमाल की स्टोरी बताई है कि आप जब कॉलेज में थे तो रात को 2:30 बजे एक ब्लिजर्ड के बीच में आप पेंसिल्वेनिया के कोई हाईवे से निकल के आप एक गैस स्टेशन गए थे, वहां पे सरदार जी था। कमाल की स्टोरी है, पर आपको ना थंबनेल में उनका फोटो लगाना चाहिए। I like, but फोटो तो है नहीं उनका। And then I went back and the thumbnail was just a screen grab of me doing something like this. Once I started getting into this game of thumbnails, of course you see the difference.
Yeah,
And
there is
being
a difference.
someone from digital media, I know what clickbait is. तो कहीं ना कहीं वो गेम तो आपको खेलना पड़ता ही है।
अब हमारे को ऐसा लग रहा है कि बिल्कुल ऐसे ओपन अप हो गए, तो अब आई थिंक इट्स द राइट टाइम टू गेट इनटू द थीम ऑफ द वीडियो व्हिच इज द रिकमेंडेशंस। हम ना उल्टा चलते हैं वानी, व्हाई डोंट वी स्टार्ट विद लाइक समथिंग व्हिच वी डोंट टॉक अबाउट इनफ ऑन द चैनल। लेट्स टॉक अबाउट फूड एंड योर फेवरेट लाइक रेस्टोरेंट्स एंड लाइक योर फूड लाइक प्लेसेस इन इंडिया। किस चीज के शौकीन है लाइक व्हेन इट कम्स टू फूड?
I have always had a soft corner for चाट। मतलब एक बार 1997 में हम लोग बोर्डिंग स्कूल में थे, और अगर आप बोर्डिंग स्कूल से वाकिफ हो या किसी को जानते हो तो खाना अक्सर अच्छा नहीं होता बोर्डिंग स्कूल का, राइट? So whenever you get a weekend to go into the market, you want to hawk. Mussoorie has a lot of boarding schools, a lot of fantastic eateries, a lot of Tibetan. So momos were a big thing. तो वहां पे था। पर 1997 में I had brought a bunch of school friends down to Bombay. ये पहाड़ी लोग हैं, ठीक है, इन्होंने कभी बीच देखा नहीं, तो वी स्टॉप्ड ऑफ एट जुहू बीच और उन्होंने कहा आप चाट वाट खाते हैं। हम चारों ने उस भाई साहब का पानी पूरी स्टॉल ना ऑलमोस्ट खत्म कर दिया। एंड वी डिडंट थिंक ट्वाइस अबाउट गेटिंग सिक, खाया, दबा के खाया। यू शो मी अ गुड दही बल्ला या पापड़ी चाट, मैं तो गाड़ी रोक के मैं वहां वहां खा लूंगा। बॉम्बे में ऑफ कोर्स सरदार वड़ा पाव, पाव भाजी, वहां हम बहुत जाते थे। एक स्वाति स्नैक्स करके है बाइकाला में। बाकी आई लाइक चाइनीज फूड। I have a soft spot for butter chicken. A good butter chicken will also make me drop whatever I'm doing. I'm not a cook at all, so don't ask me कि आप क्या बनाते हो। मैं मैगी और वाई वाई बना सकता हूँ। अक्सर मैंने कोशिश की है, खासकर लॉकडाउन के बाद, to make things, but I have enough people lined up who'll say नहीं नहीं, इनको तो किचन से ही दूर रखो। अगर मैं यहाँ दिल्ली नोएडा की बात करूँ तो बिग चिल 2006 की बात हो गई जब मैं पहली बार वहां पे गया था। दे हैड टू इन खान मार्केट, द मेन वन एंड देन द स्मॉल बेकरी। एक्चुअली वहां पे लाइन लगती थी उस जगह के बाहर। मैंने कहा ऐसा क्या है। आई एम येट टू हैव अ मील, अ बैड मील एट बिग चिल। एक
Wow.
वो है। आई लाइक माय Asian cuisine, so there's a place called Mama Goto. I love going to Mama Goto.
I'm not a foodie, but like I like going to places, and I don't mind like good food. I really love it. But for me, the thing that comes first is ambience. भाई जगह कैसे, लाइटें कैसी है, क्या कैसा है, और how important is ambience for you when you go to a place?
Not that important. If I've had a good meal, I'm a creature of habit. जैसे बिग चिल की बात करूं तो इनका नंबर 172 इज पेने बेकन एंड सम पेपरोनी का कुछ 172 है शायद वो। तो जब से मैंने 172 खाया, मैं अक्सर 172 ही खाता हूँ। But a lot of people are a big fan of Big Chill's ambience for the same reason. They have this noir kitsch kind of thing going on. A lot of old Humphrey Bogart. So it has a good thing. Even Mama Goto has some really really funky stuff. But मैंने एक बार देख लिया, ठीक है भाई साहब मेन्यू खिलाओ। बस अगर खाना अच्छा हो, खाना बनाने वाला अच्छा हो, अगर उनसे कुछ दोस्ती हो गई तो it makes it all the more. Smokehouse Delhi in Khan Market, they knew us so well. The moment we walked in, they had a table for us. They knew what to give. So these kind of things, if you can find a place like that, maza.
Yeah. So nice. The other thing, like, how often do you travel? I know you were traveling recently, but like, are you a traveler? Like, do you like to travel?
I am not a natural traveler because I'm also extremely lazy. Ek to because we have a place in Mussoorie and it drives my wife Meha mad. Whenever we make a plan to go to some other mountain place, be it like Himachal or Sikkim, घुमा फिरा के बाद वहां आता है, अरे सुनो ना, देखो मैंने कॉस्ट बनाया, इसका कॉस्ट ये आएगा ना। अगर हम मसूरी, एक तो हम नोएडा में हैं, 5 घंटे का ड्राइव है, घर अपना है, स्टाफ अपना है, कोई कॉस्ट नहीं है, it'll come down. घुमा फिरा के I keep going home because I love Mussoorie. I grew up there and we just spent 35 days in Mussoorie. We came back on Tuesday after 35 days. Of course, I love seeing places, but I've actually had more fun when I've been covering cricket around the world, like New Zealand. What a fantastic country is. But मैं उनमें से नहीं हूँ जो ना एक बजट निकालेगा इतने का. But like you do get spoiled, vaibhav, when you're covering sports for Times of India or as क्योंकि खर्चा उन पे है ना. But yeah, I have been traveling because once the industry, the film industry picked up, काफी films और web series के offers आए थे. तो इस साल की मैं बात करूं, I've traveled to Bombay about 9 or 10 times, and we're only in August mid right now.
आपके फेवरेट यूट्यूब चैनल्स कौन से? recommend us your favorite यूट्यूब चैनल्स.
One who I recently discovered, it's called the Untraveled Show. It's by Abhishek Ved is his name. He had MBA. He quit his high-paying corporate job to try and, like he says, not get into vlogging, but try and make a space where he can then, get a production house or someone to make documentaries. I've watched a lot of Breakfast with Champions. I subscribe to them. I've subscribed to Deshbak. I've seen a lot of Scoop Hoop Unscripted. There's a YouTube channel called Rob Elinda. The guy is Rob Moody. He has the greatest archive of cricket videos. और उस बंदे ये कर रहा है शायद 15 साल से, इसने एक पाई नहीं कमाया उससे.
अब हम आते हैं लाइक किताबों पे, एंड आई थिंक वानी जी आपसे पूछेंगे किताबों से रिलेटेड. मैं बिल्कुल शांत हो जाता हूँ बिकॉज किताबों की जब बातें होती है.
Let's just start with like the generic question, like, do you have any favorite books that you go back to?
I've got them right here. But again, full disclosure, I'm not a very good reader in that I used to be, and it used to drive my mother like mad because I used to ask for a lot of books when I was small. But kahin na kahin wo chhoot gaya. But I've got through some books which I think are a fairly, at least by my low standards, diverse books. Ek to kyunki main sports journalist hu, Open by Andre Agassi. I'm not a big tennis fan, but I was recommended this book. Being someone who's covered sport, what this book taught me was, तुझे कुछ नहीं पता, तुम कुछ लिख सकते हो. You can observe the way a person's backlift comes down, the way the ball is being released, the way a Federer backhand slice. But until you hear it from a person stripped down to like literally the cliche no holds barred, what this Andre Agassi went through, the physical, the mental torture. He hated tennis. He went to Nick Bollettieri's camp in Miami at the age of some 8 or 9. His father pushed him. It's a fascinating read. And Vani, you don't need to know tennis to enjoy this book. Understand what an elite athlete who has scaled pretty much all he could to know what goes into making a champion. This was an eye-opening book for me. So एक ये है, Open by Andre Agassi. This book is, again, I'm going to go with sports first. It's called Rain Men. The blurb here by one of the reviewers is a very funny book about some very sad men. It's about people who love the game so much, but when they play it every weekend, they're horrible. Like the first example is, I think his team is all out for 10, जिसमें से 7-8 extras थे. But it's written with such a sharp, witty tongue, and you can relate to it if someone like me who's never been able to play cricket beyond the club level. It's heavy on cricket, but it's witty, it's hilarious. You'll be laughing at every second page in this book. Marcus Berkman, Rain Men. I'm also a big fan of short stories. Kurt Vonnegut is one who I read a lot of.
Nice.
Roald Dahl wrote a lot of very, very funny and sharp and even dark and morbid short stories. हम Roald Dahl को इनकी novels के लिए याद करते हैं, and some of the other lighter stuff. But a lot of his short books, short stories. This is one which I picked up while traveling a couple months ago. इसमें बहुत सारे हैं which I enjoy reading. I have an uncle called Stephen Alter. उन्होंने तकरीबन शायद 21-22 books लिखे हैं, fiction, non-fiction. The one of his which I really like is called Guldar. I think the book goes by a different name in the North American market. It's a fantastic spy thriller. Of course, ये मेरे uncle हैं तो मैं उनकी books पढ़ता हूँ क्योंकि वो मुझे हर बार एक कॉपी भेजते हैं या देते हैं, तो मेरा हक बनता है. But even if you were not my uncle and I picked this book up, I would recommend it. I told him, sir, इसको आपको web series या film में बनाना चाहिए, and I hope it gets done. The book is Guldar. Wow. Another book which I also started reading once upon a time in prime time. I love films, I love TV, I love journalism. He is someone who's done this all. It will give you a unique vantage point to someone. For 38 years, Anant Mahadevan Saab has been associated with the Indian entertainment industry.
Is he the one from Bazigar, the Bazigar actor?
Bazigar, he was Shah Rukh Khan's father who tells Ehsan Faramosh. But more popularly, he is the killer in Khiladi.
Yeah, most recently he was also in Scam 92.
Absolutely. He's a very dear family friend. I had him on my lockdown chat show last year when the book was coming out. He tells you insights about DD. He was there at the formation of DD. And there's a lovely anecdote about when the gentleman who came back from a trip to South America. and he saw the hold that daily soaps had on South America, and he brought that into DD, which shows like Bunyad, Hum Log Bahut Hain. So you'll get some fantastic tidbits, and he spoke to people who were at the forefront of the TV revolution in India. So ये 5 books हैं जो
Sorry.
which came to mind when you asked me.
Do you also like, because you stay in Missouri, have you also had a chance to meet Ruskin Bond?
I get asked this question literally हफ्ते में 3-4 बार, especially when I go back to Missouri, like we just did for 35 days. I have met the gentleman once. And I was probably 12 to 13 years old. He was a very good friend of my father and my uncle Steve and Victor Banerjee, that lovely old gentleman's club. एक होता ना YouTube पे, एक होता है request, एक होता है demand. सर आप जाओ उनके घर, इनकी वीडियो लेके आओ, आप तो जानते होंगे. And I used to reply, इसलिए एक सेकंड दोस्त, ये मत समझो कि हम लोग वहां वो रहते हैं, मैं रहता था, हमारा घर है. Don't assume कि I know him. If I knocked on the door, if I introduced myself, immediately I'm sure he would say come, because of the connection he has to the Alter family. But it's really surprising that I have only met him, and I have very, very hazy memories. My father and I were walking. They probably spoke for 3 minutes, and he went his way and we went our way. That's it.
Okay, so I will now talk to you like about movies. आप बताइए, do you watch everything that comes out? Like, are you a person who used to watch a lot of films and has like those memories and their favorites from there, or do you consume it on a daily basis or a weekly basis? What's your relationship with cinema?
Again, very, very good question. My consumption has changed so much. Of course, naturally, एक progress है with age. आप इतने वेले नहीं हो जितने आप स्कूल में थे, तो आप बहुत कम देखते हो. As much as I love the web space, it's made me an extremely lazy viewer. It's easier to say, यार आजकल ना अच्छी फिल्में नहीं आती, हॉल में कौन जाएगा? But a lot of it you have to be aware is how have your consumption habits changed. The moment Netflix and Amazon came into our lives and we could watch it wherever we want to watch it, that's had a huge impact. But to give you the bigger picture, obviously being the son of somebody who's an actor, I was exposed to Hindi films. The film Sangam by Raj Kapoor Saab, that was re-released, mere hisab se shayad 86 mein, I don't know when, with some colored touch-ups in Maratha Mandir. So I think the first time I watched a Hindi film was Sangam. अब संगम शायद 60s की फिल्म वैसी है, तो 5-6 साल के जेमी को वैसे ही तो आइडिया नहीं रहा, but just the color and the loudness, like wow, this is what films are. So a lot of films like that. And growing up in Bombay at that time, ये जो pirated films का जो था ना, the local cable guy would give you the same film at 9:15 at night in your room. यार मैंने उस चीज का बहुत फायदा उठाया था, just to be able to just lock your door and watch. I remember Amir Khan की फिल्म आई थी Raak. I don't know if you ever seen Raak. It's a very dark, very technically inferior film, but to watch Amir Khan, and it's set in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's clearly not a film for a 9-year-old. But 9-year-old Jamie ने उस चीज को देखा, मैंने कहा यार ये आमिर खान तो अभी हमारे घर के बाहर जो होर्डिंग है वो खड़ा है, Juhi Chawla holding his leg and looking up in the camera. This guy is now gone and done a film like Raak, and I don't know in what state of mind the local cable provider was when he put Raak on the local thing. But I was like, wow, this is a seriously intense film. और फिर कुछ 24-25 साल बाद I found the film on YouTube, and I'm like, ये तो बड़ी बकवास फिल्म थी यार. But again, just to wrap it up quickly, growing up in Bombay, vaibhav, Bani, कोई Friday नहीं गया जहाँ मैंने कोई film नहीं छोड़ा. I mean, you know what it's like to go and stand on a Wednesday in the advanced booking line for that purple or yellow pink wali parchi, row 34 balcony stall. When you've gone through that, na, iske muqable mein kuch cheez nahi hai. Then of course in Missouri during the breaks, to save 20 rupees and to run down from our estate, which is literally one end of Landauer, to run through the rain down to that घंटाघर वाला धोबी जिसका side business VHS का है. भैया मोहरा है, मोहरा तो नेगी जी लेगे, विजय पद दे दूं? And you're like, अच्छा चलो जो भी है चलेगा. I was watching films probably in the theater still 4 or 5 years ago, but then I just wasn't enjoying the films that much. And once you can get a film on your laptop and all, so I become a very lazy viewer. I watch a lot. I spend 3-4 hours a day watching something, but इतना passionate fan नहीं हूँ कि यार मैं first day वाला show देखना अभी नहीं.
Got it. And अभी इतने सारे जो टीवी सीरीज आते हैं, like are you consuming them or are there any favorites जो आपने कुछ Netflix, Hotstar, Prime पे देखा हो?
Panchayat for me, जो 2020 पे आई थी, was perhaps the show of the year for me, because in the middle of this wave of gali galoch violence, over the top North Indian shows, of which I've also enjoyed, but the way that that show came bina kisi gali galoch ka, and I said this in one of the reviews I'd done, it was वागले की दुनिया meets मालगुड़ी days in a way that just took me back to, यार इस शो में ना ज्यादा कुछ हो नहीं रहा है, बट यार जिस तरह से ये एक 3 पहिया वाली कुर्सी पे चल रहा है या दूल्हे की जो गजब बेइज्जती हुई है, I had a blast watching it. So
Nice.
that's one show that stands out. Patal Lok, I was mesmerized. Gullak is another show on Sony Live which I discovered about
Yeah.
3 months ago. उसमें मजा आया, you know. अगर इंग्लिश की बात करूं तो A Mayor of Easttown, I entered it not knowing कि ये क्या है, बस if Kate Winslet has entered the OTT space, इसमें कुछ होगा. Initially, first episode for me was a bit of a drag to get by. Like उसके
Same,
बाद जो
same.
हुआ था
First
ना,
episode के बाद जो first episode is like 6 on 10, then every episode is 10 on 10.
same, और वो तीसरे वाले के बाद I'm like, what in the world? Because it's so much more than police
Yeah,
procedural.
yeah, yeah,
It is a
yeah.
study of a human characters and characters across age groups.
Absolutely. It also depicts grief in a way that I haven't seen. Grief का जो Kate Winslet का जो पूरा relation दिखा था, I'm like, people don't portray grief like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, a very heavy, a very morose show. Fauda, the Israeli show, that's one which I discovered very late. Better Call Saul, I really enjoyed because I'm a huge fan of Breaking Bad. That's one. I've gotten into the Scandi Noir, you know, which is a lot of your Scandinavian shows, which are dark and they're crime. I'm a big sucker for ones like that. I have a hard time watching things with subtitles. Which is why, let's say, my exposure to international shows फिर भी थोड़ा limited है.
I think we are now coming to the last segment of the episode, which is music. How is your relationship with music? How is it a part of your lifestyle?
It is a constant part, Vaibhav and Vani, a constant part. Like मैं सुबह उठता हूँ तो if I'm making tea, if I'm brushing, I something is thing. And now the great part about these things are they're with us wherever you go. My parents, while they were not musicians or singers, music was always a part of our house. LPs, records, cassettes, vinyl, radio, ये सब था. I can remember our Breach Candy wala flat we had for a brief time. My father would be waiting for his Urdu ustad to come. And S.D. Burman की आवाज सुनाई देती थी और किशोर कुमार, रफी, मन्ना डे, मुकेश, और उसी के साथ the tape would be flipped and then Bob Dylan would be singing, the Beatles would be singing. So I had this amazing, very privileged awakening to music from a very young age. But then once I started to hear like Kumar, Shan and all, मैंने कहा यार वो सब ठीक है, मैं तो इनका बहुत बड़ा fan हूँ. Him, Udit Narayan, very, very hard for me to choose between these two. Because at the age I started to hear them was an age where, you know, you're now getting into your teens, which for the best of people is a very complicated time to be in, you know, especially class 6, 7, 8. So मेरी mother एक चीज कहती है कि ना तुम, I was given a lot of freedom by my parents. She said, तुम class 6 में अपने रूम के अंदर गए और class 8 में तुम बाहर आए और तुमने अंदर क्या किया ना, हमें बहुत फिक्र था कि क्या कर रहा है. ऐसे यार हमने कोई ड्रग्स नहीं किया, हमने कोई सुट्टा नहीं पिया, हम बैठ के कुमार सानू के गाने सुन रहे थे, हम उदित नारायण के गाने सुन रहे थे, हम एवरी फ्राइडे वो हिंदी फिल्में देख रहे थे. I could have gone down a very dark rabbit hole 3 years behind a locked door, but I came out as this Hindi film buff. So I have about 25 playlists on my phone with range from Hindi to English to Pakistani to African to Arabic. I was driving somewhere about 6-8 months ago, और naturally जो होता है process, आप गाड़ी start करते हो, audio नहीं आ रहा था. The dashboard was showing, radio नहीं चला, and I had to go like literally 10 minutes away to buy something. मैंने गाड़ी रोका साइड पे, मैंने कहा ये गाने क्यों नहीं चल रहे. I cannot function. I cannot go down to buy milk in the morning without having my earpods on. I need music.
Hashtag relate. Hashtag relate. It's very interesting to know your relation with all these things from like movies, books, sports, music, and like हमें काफी वैलिडेशन मिली, हमें काफी मजा आया, एंड वी होप आपको भी मजा आया जिमी.
बहुत 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 मजा आया. I think every single question you asked me has been about something which I really care about, so it's been fun. Thank you.
You mentioned your father, and I want to mention one small thing. There is this interview, Rajya Sabha TV पे इरफान सर ने जो टॉम ऑल्टर सर का लिया था. For me, it is like the benchmark of like what a good interview is, and I think it's 1.5 hours long. मैं इरफान सर का भी बहुत बड़ा fan हूँ कि वो questions कैसे पूछते हैं. We try to incorporate some.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and that one particular interview is like, I think I've recommended it 1,000 times, and I just wanted to tell you that like बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है मेरे को वो.
That's very kind of you. There are certain clips जो साल में 20-30 बार I get sent, be it my father's birthday or August 15th, or something would have happened that they remember a certain day of the year with something he said during that very long interview. एक वो interview और एक जो मेरे father ने सचिन तेंदुलकर का लिया था when he was 15 years old, the first video one. These get sent to me either on WhatsApp or Instagram or any social media platform so often with such just sheer love and admiration for what my father did. So it always feels nice to be asked or just to be told about things like this.
So nice. So thank you so much, Jimmy, for doing this.
जो भी इस वीडियो देख रहे हैं चलचित्र टॉक्स, प्लीज सब्सक्राइब, लाइक, शेयर, recirculate, and if they're ever doing something live, it's very important that you get the like button going. That's something that a lot of content creators will ask you to do because it actually means a lot. So please do that, circulate, and just follow them, watch what they're doing, because like I said earlier, what they're doing is actually something unique and something honest and something fun.